Welcome. This is your friend Daniel Kwame Pobi welcoming you on behalf of the HiCAD team. This is HiCAD's Leadership 360, where we talk everything leadership and discuss things relating to personal growth and development. So we occupy the space that we are supposed to occupy. It's my joy to welcome you. As we starting a new year, we are looking at those things that will help us to position ourselves very well, look at ourselves very well, so we can influence and so we can make impact wherever we find ourselves. And in this episode, we are looking at the topic envisioning your emerging future. Envisioning your emerging future. And it's my joy to welcome you. If this is your first time joining us, click on that subscribe button. I encourage you to also click on that bell button so you receive notification whenever we come up live. And also share with your friends, share this video, share on social media, and let others come and enjoy together with us. In this episode, as I said, we are looking at envisioning your emerging future, that future of yours that is coming. How do you see it? How, when you step out there and you look into the skies, how do you see yourself coming up? And we'll be looking at three main concepts. The first one is this concept of the levels of development or developmental levels that we pass through as human beings as we grow and as we increase and as we occupy the space that we are supposed to occupy. These are levels that we pass through, and we want to talk about three of them. The first one is the one that deals with the socialized mind. The second one is the one that deals with self-altering mind. And then there's a third one that is self-transforming mind. And then we'll be looking at another concept that relates to what Dr. Paul Sheele has put out as the future thinking model. The future thinking model has four different quadrants, and each of those quadrants represent a certain state in your life. And we want to discuss those four different quadrants. There is the present negative, there is also the present positive, there is the future negative, and there is also the future positive. Those are the four quadrants in what Dr. Paul Sheele has put out there as the future thinking model that he has shared with us. Now, to set this in motion, I want to read a piece of scripture from Hebrews chapter 11, and I'm reading from verse number 23 to 28. It says, by faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Verse 26 continues, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, and for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. So that is Hebrews chapter 11, verse 23 to 28. I want to use this biblical quotation as a basis or as a background to what it is that we are going to talk about, because we are talking about envisioning, you being able to visualize your emerging future, you being able to see the future that is ahead, that which is not yet seen, your ability to see it, and also to be able to bring that forth to bring that into being, you need to see it. If you're able to see it, if you are able to visualize it, it is attainable. Every dream, every vision is attainable. So I just want you to have this story at the back of your mind, the story of Moses, how he was born, he got to Pharaoh's house, and in that palace, how he was raised, and the circumstances under which he now had to run away. Just keep that at the back of your mind, and then it will help our discussion. Now, we as human beings, we are born into this world. Now, when we are born, we are utterly helpless. People have to do almost everything for us. So we are reliant on everyone for all the things that we need. Someone has to feed us. Someone has to bathe us. Someone has to clothe us. Someone has to clean us. Someone has to do something for us and provide that thing or the other. So we are totally dependent on this world. The moment we come into the world, we begin that dependence on the world. And so we are looking forward to people and to those around us to tell us, what am I supposed to do? When a child is doing something, he or she is looking to the father or the mother or any other significant person around and checking with the person, am I doing right? Am I doing well? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? So we look around and want to find out from people, what do I need to do to be successful? What do I need to do to attain success in my life? And we take on that programming and that messaging, and that forms us, like that the culture around us forms us into a certain image. And if you like our family system, okay, when we are born into the family, they shape us and they program us and they give us certain messaging. And so the culture that we find ourselves in, the society that we find ourselves in, our school system, our family system, our religious institutions, they tell us what we need to know in order for us to lead a successful life. They kind of share with us those things that we will need on life's journey. And so by the time we get into adulthood, stay with me, by the time we get into adulthood, you and I, we've reached a certain developmental level, which really is the first level. Psychologists call that the socialized mind. You have a certain mind that has been socialized. So when they say someone is not sociable or someone is not socialized, it's another way of saying you're not civilized, or you are not well groomed, or you are not trained. You have not been formed very well. And that social mind kind of tells you what society expects of you to be successful. That's great. So we live in a society, whichever society that you belong to or live in, society, the social systems around you will give you an indication of what is required for you to be successful. And I said that is the first developmental level, the socialized mind. And then we try to create our own success. In the course of we making that effort to create our success, we come to realize that things may not be going the way that we expected them to go. And we begin to think that, hey, wait a minute, there has to be something more, something else that I'm not seeing, something else that I'm missing, because you begin to see that what you expected to bring that success for you probably may not be bringing that success to you, and you begin to question that. At that point in your life, when you begin to question these things, then you are moving yourself into a certain transformed life to the next developmental stage, which psychologists call the self-altering mind. Self-altering mind. So now you are beginning to alter, you are beginning to write your own mind, you are beginning to code and program your own mind the way that you want it to be. So you that is listening to me, you that is part of the Hackard community or part of our network on YouTube, you that is watching me now, this is part of the process of self-altering. You are in the process of reprogramming and shaping yourself, because one of the areas we look at is personal development? How do you groom yourself and develop yourself to occupy? So you already understand that the programming that you have may not be sufficient. What you've carried on all this while may not be sufficient. What you may have been taught in school may not be sufficient. And so you put yourself through a certain regime so that you bring yourself to the level where you want to attain the success that you want to attain. But that is the second level. That is the second developmental level. And we call that level the self-authoring level. The self-authoring level. At this level of self-altering mind, where you are beginning to self-alter the things around you, you begin to have a sense of a kind of a future. Remember, we are talking about envisioning the emerging future. You begin to have a certain sense of a future or a desired state that you want your life to be in, and you want to get to that place. And as you look at it, it puts you in transition to the next level. As you are beginning to reprogram yourself, it puts you in transition to the next developmental level. And that is called the self-transforming mind. The self-transforming mind. That's what we've been most interested in all this while. Look, this thing that we are talking about, what is that process of transformation? What is that process of transformation? How do I transform myself to be able to bring forward what it is that I envision for my future? And so we are not just talking about you changing your life or just changing what you wear or changing the way you speak. It's about life transformation. It's about you transforming your life by connecting with a deeper source. A deeper source, so you receive what it is that you are supposed to receive, so that you can play your part in this world that you are part of, in this world that is unfolding around us, that you as an individual, you are also able to play your part. And that is the third developmental level. We call that the self-transforming mind. The self-transforming mind. Now, having this at the back of your mind, I want to bring to you what Dr. Paul Sheele calls the future thinking model. The future thinking model. And this model has 4 quadrants. It has 4 quadrants. And we want to look at all these quadrants and see how they play out in our lives as individuals, as we want to see the emerging future for our lives. You can see on your screen now, this is the envisioning your emerging future. And as I said, I learned it from Dr. Paul Sheele. And he says that there is a certain state that we are in. Now, the state that we are in is not so pleasant for us. And so we will call that the present negative. We are normally in this present negative, and the current situation or circumstance that we find ourselves in, we are not completely satisfied with it. Now, in the case of Moses, remember he was in the palace, but the things that he saw, the things that were happening around him, made it very difficult for Moses to be satisfied. And that dissatisfaction is what made him want to have a certain future. Okay, so our present negative creates a certain desire for a better life, which is what we want to refer to as the future positive. The future positive is the desired state that we want to be in. And the scripture that we read says that Moses, esteeming the reproach of Christ far greater, he saw that greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. And so that future positive that Moses wanted to see made him take the risk. He did not fear the anger or wrath of the king because of the future that he saw. Now, the unfortunate thing is that we want that positive future. You and I, we want that positive future. What, unfortunately, we dwell on is not the positive future. We dwell on our present negative. We dwell on our present negative. We have this idea that we want to have a great future ahead of us. We want to see a great future. But unfortunately, we are looking in the rear view mirror. And so we miss what is ahead of us. You hear people say, "Oh, I just don't want to have to show up at that office every day anymore. I don't want to go through that situation anymore. I cannot continue to live in that accommodation anymore. I cannot continue to drive that car anymore." And then you say, "Well, okay. So what does that future look like? What is the kind of future that you want to have?" And you hear responses like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know, but I just don't want this. I don't want this." But you see, what the person is saying is that I don't know the future that I want to have. And that is not a description of the future. If you say, "I don't know, I just don't want this," it's not a description of the future that you want to have. And so this present negative, we want to move into this future positive. But there are some things, there are two forces that are actually working against our growth in that direction. There are two forces that will work against your growth in that direction that you want to see. Now, one is the fear that you might lose something that is present and which is positive that you don't want to lose. That is what we refer to as the present positive. It is something that you're enjoying now. You are in the palace, you are enjoying the stability of your salary, you are enjoying the stability of the car, even though it's not serving you the way you want it to serve you, but you're enjoying that present positive. And something inside you tells you that if you don't take care, you may lose even the present positive. So as much as you want the future positive, you also want to keep and maintain the present positive. It's like your comfort zone. You are just comfortable, you are familiar, it's known to you. So you are willing to stick there and to remain there. And that is your present positive. Now, there is a second fear. The second fear is that we are afraid of creating some negative that is unanticipated in the future. There is a certain future negative, a certain unimaginably bad things that could happen, which is a future negative. And because we are afraid of what the future negative will be, what if I go into the desert? What if I go into that space and bandits and raiders pick me up and they kill me? What if I venture into this space and get suffocated and get crowded and I'm not able to come out the way that I intended? And we begin to ask ourselves these questions because we don't know the future. We are not sure of the future. But we are talking about you envisioning your emerging future. You envisioning your emerging future. That is what we are talking about. So, my friend, you see, in this episode, we are talking about we envisioning that emerging future, that future that is ahead of us, that future that we are desiring and wanting to see. And to get us there, we shared first and foremost that we as human beings, when we are born, we pass through certain developmental stages. The first one is out of our socialization, we develop a socialized mind. We develop a socialized mind. That is the first developmental level. Then we begin to question the things around us as we begin to apply what we have been socialized to believe. And then we begin to change some of the things. And so we move to the next level, which is self-altering mind, the self-altering mind. Then it brings a certain level of agitation and wanting to transform ourselves. And so we transition into a level where we get into the self-transforming mind, self-transforming mind. And here it is not just about me changing one or two things in my life. It's about bringing about a whole transformation of my life so that I can play my role the way that God designed me to play that role. And we say that as we desire that, we want to also remember what Dr. Paul Sheele has shared with us in the thinking model that he has shared with us, the future thinking model. And we said it has 4 quadrants. The first quadrant is the quadrant of our present negative, that which makes us uncomfortable. We are not satisfied with. We are not happy with the state of this situation, and so we want to do something. What we want to do is what we want to see, and we refer to that as the future positive. So from our present negative, we want to move to our future positive. And we said that there are 2 forces that can stand in our way, preventing us from getting into our future positive. The first one is what we call the present positive. The fact that, look, you may not be satisfied with A, B, C, but there may be 1, 2, 3 other things that are present in your life now and that are positive, and you don't want to let go. And so that is a present positive. And sometimes that comfort zone does not allow us to move into our growth zone and doesn't allow us to venture into the unknown because we are afraid. And that connects to the second fear that could plague our lives, and which is the future negative. You are afraid that you may fail. You've been afraid that things may not go well. You've been afraid that things may not go the way you expect, and people will laugh at you, and people are going to mock you. And as scripture will say, you began building and you couldn't finish, and because of that, somebody decides that I'm not going to start building at all. So by way of this emerging future that is coming, that we want to begin to envision that this year, this is what we want to reflect on. And thank you for your time. Thank you for sticking and staying with us on this channel, Highcat's Leadership 360. It's a pleasure to have had you join us. Please, if you have not subscribed us yet, click on that subscribe button. Click also on that bell button, and please share with others. Bring more to join us, and let's grow together. Until we meet again in the next episode, on behalf of the Highcat team, it is bye-bye from us. Take care of yourself and be well. Bye-bye.